Aloha and welcome. My name is Geraldine St. Joseph and I am a psychic intuitive. I do my work throughout the United States and I have clients all over the world. So if you speak English and you would like a session, please contact me. Today we're going to discuss what is sacred. What does sacredness mean to you? In my belief system, all things are sacred, whether we believe they're alive or not. Trees, rocks, people, animals, all things that God created are sacred. But what does that mean? How do we treat something that is sacred differently than we treat other things? The answer is, if all things are sacred, you treat everything with equal respect. It's treating something with respect and love, and knowing that you're doing what's best for the better good of all. So, when we look at a tree and we know that it's alive and we don't know whether it can feel or not, it can't. In our estimation, by the way, we sense things, but that doesn't mean it doesn't sense things in a different way. We look at that tree and we treat it with respect. We don't pull off the leaves. We don't just carve our name into it. We don't just act as if it does not have any bearing in the real world. We treat it with respect. So what we do is we take that tree, and if we're going to use it, make sure you use the whole thing. Like the Native Americans, their belief system, and when they killed an animal, they used the entire animal. What is heinous and destructive and evil are people who take things and they waste. Like the people who take sharks in the ocean, they cut off their dorsal fins and that's all they use. They throw the rest of the animal back into the ocean to suffer a slow, agonizing death. There's no need for that. If you're going to use an animal, use the entire animal. There's something you could use every bit of that animal for. That's just being wasteful and disrespectful to Mother Earth, to God, to sacredness. The other things that we consider sacred are the way we make agreements with other people, or with God, or with ourselves. How much do you value your agreements with yourself? Generally, these are the lowest on the list. Second lowest would be agreements with God, and third would be agreements with other people, because sometimes they come with actual contracts that we are forced to honor. So when you make up your list of things to do on New Year's Eve, that these are my intentions for the year, you're creating an agreement with yourself. Are you following that agreement? Or do you just shrug it off like it's not a big deal? Do you keep it for a day, for 2 days, for a week, for a month, for 2 months, and then you just forget about it? Those agreements are very, very important. If we cannot trust ourselves, how could we trust anyone else? It's about integrity. And following through on agreements is showing a lack of integrity. Integrity is truthfulness. It's your core. It's how much you love yourself, and that projects out into the world. And it's also your connection to God. If you have no integrity, you have no connection to God. Second, are agreements with God. I don't know if you ever saw, I think it's called The End, with Burt Reynolds. Great movie. And he's out in the ocean. He was going to kill himself. And then as he's out there and he's starting to drown, he's thinking, wait, no, I have so much to live for. So he starts paddling back and he's like, God, if I make it, I'll go to church every day and I'll give you 50% of all I earn, 50%. And then as he gets closer and closer, and it becomes easier and easier and less of a chance that he's actually going to drown, it gets less and less. Well, I think 50% was a little bit much. I think I'll give you 10% of everything I earn. And, I'm not going to do this, and this, but I'll do this. So going through that, as he got closer, he reneged on all of his agreements that got him that far. Now, oftentimes when we're in dire straits like that, we do make promises that we would not otherwise, and things that we don't really mean. It's the same thing in our relationships with one another. When we're in a relationship where we feel stressed or pressured, oftentimes we'll say things that we don't really mean, or make agreements, agree to things that really don't hold any water. They have no value because of they were made under duress. Other times we make agreements and we're very flippant about it. It doesn't really mean much to us. Examples of this are when you're in a relationship and say you're in a romantic relationship with a person, and that person, they don't know how to date. All they do is they get married. Like they want to be married, and that's it. They want to be married. Will you marry me? Will you marry me? And you enjoy being with the person. You think you like the person. Yeah, you're getting older. Maybe it's okay to get married. But there's no real thought given to the sacredness of that contract. So you say, yeah, okay, in order to get them off your back. And then you find yourself in a situation where you're very unhappy, they're very unhappy, and a sacred contract has been broken. And the other thing would be like when a girl pressures a boy to tell him he loves her right before the act. You love me, don't you? And he's like, yeah, sure, because he's looking to get something. And he's not really truthful in his statement. Then, with our contracts with each other, often we fall off the boat. We may mean it when we're saying it, but be careful what you say. Don't use absolutes. I will always love you. I will always be here for you. And then next week you meet somebody else and you decide you want to always be with them. It doesn't work that way. That's just being dishonest. That's also chipping away at your own integrity and creates a lack of integrity, which creates a lack of connection with God. And also creates a disconnect between you and your own soul, so that you then don't feel comfortable in your own skin. This is not something that any of us want to feel. It's very uncomfortable. So what is sacred? What is truly sacred? Those things that are holy, those things. Sacred is what we make of it. But our word should be a sacred thing. You should think about what you're saying before you say it. You should have in your heart and your head a clear idea of where you're going with this. It should not be said flippantly, especially when you make promises to people. If you promise a child that you'll always be there for them no matter what, then you better make sure you're always there for them. That's not something that you can just throw away. It's not something you can just walk away from and say, well, I meant it when I said it, but I don't mean it now. I have a new person in my life and they don't like kids, so much for my child. It doesn't work that way. That sticks with you. It creates very negative karma, and it's like a seed or a stone in your shoe as you walk. It's an irritant that's always there. You may not be able to see it, but you definitely feel it, and the effects trickle up and they get worse over time. So see the world as sacred. It is a sacred place. Treat everything and everyone with respect. And think about what you say. Don't use absolutes. Only make agreements and make promises that you are sure you're going to be able to keep. With that, I'm signing off. So your homework is to really think about what you're saying and what you're doing before you do it. Are you showing respect? If you're making an agreement, will you be able to stand by that agreement? Start writing things down. What are your agreements? Where are you putting your energy? Where are you throwing your power? Where are you throwing it away? This is Geraldine St. Joseph. You can check out my website, voiceofspirit.com or psychicinhawaii.com, or you can call me if you would like a session. Aloha.